Hey guys, it's Tom Box. Welcome to MST.TV. This is part 3 of our set analysis for Eternity Code. Part 1, we covered all the secret rares. Part 2, we've covered some of the newer archetypes, and Nishi kind of explained how those decks function. And now in part 3, we're going to go over some of the more notable gems of the set and some of the underrated cards perhaps fell under the radar because they were just common and maybe you just didn't really care about it. Perhaps you'll find some future implementation for some of these cards, and I decided to take a chance to read every single card with you guys. So make sure you guys hit that thumbs up button, hit subscribe, ding notification bell, because it is a lot of work building up one of these set analysis, which is why no one really does it on any other channel. But this is for you guys, so I would appreciate just a simple click on a thumbs up. And without further ado, let's break down everything else that we did not cover in part 1 and 2. Now this set is rather difficult to break down because there's no one set that took out most of the card slots, so everyone got 1 or 2 cards here and there. So I decided to group them into their own little categories so that it's a bit more digestible for all of us. And make sure you guys check out the TCG player link down in the description if you guys are going to be picking up cards from Eternity Code to help support this channel. Anyways, moving on. Okay, starting off with the Cybers package, the generic Cybers, we have Armored Bitron, which lets you special summon out Cybers monsters out of your deck. Negate the effect, lock you into Cybers. Not the most noteworthy card, but it can summon any level, so I guess you got that going for it. Then we have Parallel Exceeds. Okay, this is one thing that I would say in this category would be probably the most noteworthy card because it generates additional bodies for you. It has 2 special summoning effects. One is that if you link summon, you can summon out this card from your hand as a special summon to the arrow that it points to, which is kind of nice. So that the other effect is when this card is normal or special summon, you can special summon out 1 Parallel Exceeds from your deck. Note that if you do summon out Parallel Exceeds from your own effect of Parallel Exceeds, it becomes level 4. So you can generate 2 level 4 bodies really easily, and it can really speed things up for you. So there's a lot of good support for just Cybers based players. And then we have Scriptron, which is another free summon where you just banish a Cybers monster, summon out this card from your hand. And if you use it as a material, you get this cycle some of your banished monsters back into the deck. That's all there is to it. And then they have Splash Mage, which is a water Cyber, so you can technically play this in the Marine Cess. And all it does is revive one of your Cybers monsters. Now, if you do use these effects, you are locked into summoning Cybers only for the rest of the turn, so there is a limitation. But hey, if you're playing Marine Cess, you're mainly playing Cybers anyways, but you also have like Totally Awesome and all that other stuff. So there is that limitation. Just keep that in mind. It's not like a freebie all the way through. But in terms of our more archetype-based Cybers monster, we have Salamangreat and Marine Cess. Now, Salamangreat, Zebraroid X, you can't really use him very much. You have the last effect, which you can use, which is gain the attack for each material attached to it. But the other effect you can't really use because you don't have Blaze Dragon just yet. That's not released in TCG. So you can't really use the effect to summon itself out along with another level 4 when a Link monster you control leaves the field because your opponent's card effect. And summon 2, including this, level 4, I guess Salamangreat monsters, and then immediately Exceed summon into the only Salamangreat monster that is a rank 4, which is Blaze Dragon. Doesn't exist, you can't use the effect. So hopefully Konami releases something about it. But I think the most noteworthy card for Salamangreat would be the Burning Draw. Now, if your opponent controls more cards than you do, target 1 Link monster your opponent controls and draw cards equal to its Link rating. Now, you can activate 1 Burning Draw per turn. However, you cannot normal or special summon out monsters during the turn you activate this card except for fire monsters. Note that it may be a Salamangreat card, but I think Infernoids can also utilize this card, which kind of makes it a bit scarier since you're not just using this for specifically Salamangreat purposes. That's just my guess. Are you Infernoid players interested in actually playing this card? In fact, Inferno players, you guys got another card coming up anyway. But this card is always considered as a Salamangreat card, but the only real Salamangreat restriction is you're locked into fire. But considering that you can target a Appaloosa, you can maybe draw 4 cards, or maybe if you got the Arrival Cybers, you can draw 6 cards. Sounds kind of nutty, especially if you get to go second. Maybe you'll draw into some stuff that can break a board. Like there are kaijus that you can draw into, like a Dogaran, which is something that you can technically still special summon. Okay, as for our Marine Cess, we have, oh boy, this name is Marine Cess Basilalima. Sounds like a crazy little chant. It's a very defensive card that has generic protection for any cards that are being destroyed by card effect by banishing this card from the graveyard. it's decent overall. It's a rather defensive. It is level 4. Maybe you can go into Bahamut Shark overall. And I believe while it's on the field, you can banish a Marine's Trap from your graveyard and add from your deck to your hand another Marine's Trap with a different name. So it lets you cycle through your traps. I think Marine's Wave is one of the key ones that you really use. I'm not sure how useful that effect is going to be. There's additional effects on it. Marine's also gain another boss monster, which is the Great Bubble Reef, which focuses on summoning out stuff from the graveyard and banishing cards and drawing cards, utilizing a little bit of a banishing cycle. And let's go into the more evil side with Eyes cards. Ignisters, they gain a bunch of cards actually. They get Gachikiri and they also have Gusari. One is offensive, one is defensive. The defensive one, which is the shield, I think it's pretty neat that you can target a Cyberburst effect monster you control and negate its effect, and if you do so, summon out this card from your hand. So it's a bit of a free summon for you with 3,000 booty. So 3,000 defense, not the easiest card to run over. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, target a face-up monster opponent controls, and that you control, and that card is unaffected by your opponent's card effects until the end of your opponent's turn. So this card is very defensive, and then you have the more offensive sword/spear looking card. All it does is it burns your opponent, and you can change monsters that are battling to 3,000. So that's all there is. They have their own Floodgate, which limits you to only one Link summon per turn. But seeing that we're in Master Rule 5, it doesn't really matter as much anymore, because some people just have a vast variety of cards in their extra deck now, so they're not locked into just Links. And then they have Eye Contact, which is a bit of a draw card for them. If they have multiple Ignister Islands, they can reveal one of their Ignister Islands in their hand and put it to the bottom and draw 3 cards. It's a +1. It's kind of like a Gladiator's Respite, but this is technically trading 1 card for 2, but it does require you the original Ignister Island, so it could be just a hand cycle at the very least. But if you already had those cards, technically you're not losing the Ignister Island anyway, and the island technically also gives you a plus, so it can lead to a +1, maybe +2, depending on the situation. Now it's time for a bit more of a generic card. We have the Arrival Cyberburst, the only Link 6 that is actually quite generic, but does require 3+ monsters with different attributes. If you can execute this card, it's still a very powerful card because, first of all, it's unaffected by all the other card effects, and the stat is very similar to Appaloosa. It generates it based off of, instead of multiplying by 800, it's multiplied by 1,000 for every material used to Link summon this card. So again, get pretty big. And once per turn, you can target one other monster on the field and destroy it, and if you do, you generate a token. And the token goes into one of its arrows. It does have an arrow pointing upwards, but you can only summon it to your zone that this card points to, so you cannot generate it onto your opponent's side. That's unfortunate, but hey, you can still have another level 1 token that maybe you can use to Link summon even further. I think this card's still really useful as like an end boss monster in the simplified game state. It's still probably very much noteworthy in my opinion. And then we have Access Code Tokens. This is probably one of the ones that everyone's gonna want. It is also a secret rare and deserves that secret rare slot very much, because if this card is Link summoned, target one Link monster that is used as material, and it gains attack equal to its Link rating times 1,000. Seems like everyone's gaining 1,000 attack for its Link rating. Okay, so this card can be put to maybe 5,300 attack if you're gonna be, or even higher if you're gonna be using some of the bigger guys. Like, can you imagine if you use like Arrival Cyberburst to make the Access Code Talker so it gains 6,000 attack, and then it can pop cards. Now, you can destroy one card your opponent controls for basically banishing a Link monster out of your graveyard, but you cannot banish the monster with the same attribute anymore. So this is not once per turn. You can just keep using it as long as you have the right materials. I feel like a certain Dragon Link deck can abuse the crap out of this card if they can actually make this. Yeah, they can easily make this card, because if this, I would put this in Dragon Link easily, because you have wind, you have light, you have darks, you can just go pow, 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 pow. It's a Dark Arm Dragon, but big. Really big Dark Arm Dragon, and yeah, your opponent cannot respond to it. There's Link Cross, which is going to be a new essential combo piece for a lot of decks that are playing Synchros and Crystal High Clifforbacks, and perhaps even go further and work with Trishula, and maybe even go in with, say, the Ravenous Crocodile Dragon, what's his name? Arcthesis, whatever his name is. We'll get into him when we get there. But yeah, overall, this one is another very powerful card, I would say. But just remember, the tokens cannot be used as Link material for this turn. So there's that. And then there is Proxy Fusion Magician, or Proxy F Magician, just requiring 2 effect monsters. You get a free fusion. You can fusion summon one monster from your extra deck by using monster you control as a fusion material. So it does provide you with quick fusion access. This one's generic, only 2 effect monsters, and there's no real limitation. And you can get another free summon out of your hand as long as you special summon a fusion monster into one of these arrows. So overall, that's the Cybers package. For the Warriors and I guess Samurai package, we got the Ancient Warriors, Gokis, Codebreaker, and Super Heavy Samurai. Yeah, I know they're machines, but hey, the carrier Samurai names, like, this seems like the right category to kind of shift them in. Starting off with the Ancient Warriors, of course, continuing with that archetype, they're getting more support by getting finally the Fire Nation being shoved in there. They have Ancient Warriors, the Fire Nation. We have the Ambitious Chowda, which is, I guess, Chow Chow, or one of the Chow families. And he is a built-in Goyo Guardian. And it's pretty insane because anything he destroys, well, you get to just special summon that monster in defense position. And if your opponent's card gets destroyed by battle or card effects, send one other card from your hand or on the field to special summon this card from your hand. In other words, he's got a built-in summon condition to go with it. And since he is one of the commanders, a Ancient Warrior commander, if you control another Ancient Warrior monster, your opponent cannot target this card with card effects. Also, it cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. In other words, it's got a lot of protection built into it. So maybe we'll finally see some rogue play coming from the Ancient Warriors. Another dude that's pretty interesting, of course, they've got their vassals. This vassal is one of their, I guess, one of their enforcers, which is Zhang Yuan, and he just, whenever something gets attacked, I suppose he just do special summon himself and lower whatever that is battling an Ancient Warrior by 1,000 attacks. Pretty big deal. I guess you get a free swing, and if this card is destroyed by your opponent by battle card effect, you get to blow up a card. So overall, he's just gonna die fighting with you. Then there's a Schemer, which can have the attack of stuff twice. 2 monsters that gets their attack halved, and that's about it. That's all really there is to it. Then we have the Strategist, Zhuge Kong. He's part of the Wind Nation, I guess. He's part of the Wind attribute guys. And if he's got his boss out there as well, he's got a lot of things going for him because he's the generic negator, and he has a special summon condition where if he's added to from an Ancient Warrior card, he'll special summon himself onto the field. And he's a spell trap negator as well as a monster negator, which is why he's the Strategist. And then there's also the new spell card, Ancient Warrior Saga. Well, I guess borrowing arrows is just part of the kingdom where they just put fake ships out there to have people fire the arrows at it, and they collect the arrows so that they can arm their own archers with arrows. Similar idea with this effect, which is you can target one of your face-up monster opponent controls and one Ancient Warrior monster you control, and then you have the attack of one guy and you have the other guy boost their attack, much like a Boral Sword. And I think there's more if you have 2 or more Ancient Warriors. Well, this card is sent to the graveyard, you get to replace it with a different continuous spell and trap and just activate it straight onto the field. Or you place it onto the field, I believe. Yeah, and so it's not an activation. Yeah, so there's that. Anyways, that's all the Ancient Warriors. I think the most notable card would be the Chowda. And then now we're going to move on to, I guess, the Goki. Goki, there's 3 cards. The Goki Guts, which is a guy that cannot be destroyed by battle while it's in defense mode. And like all Gokis, they search other Goki cards when they're sent to the graveyard. Yeah, that's kind of neat. Not too interesting here. And then we have the Iron Claw. Very conditional hand trappy effect would just boost something by 500 and make it immune to your opponent's card effect. Seriously, if you've gone to battle already, I don't think they're caring too much about card effects at this point. And yeah, sent from field, you get to add a Goki card. If this card was sent from hand to grave and add a Goki card, then it would have been an amazing card because it's a hand trap that replenishes itself and fixes up other hands. But then, okay, the noteworthy card I would say is the Power Load Ogre because it requires 2+ warrior monsters. Rather generic and gains attack equal to the total link rating of all other link monsters by 200. It's not small by default, so it's already pretty good. And since it's generic water, if you're using a soul, perhaps another probably not hero, because heroes usually lock yourself into like dark monsters. But if you play like a warrior generic deck, I would actually recommend using this card because like all the other boss monsters introduced into this set, this link summon card is unaffected by other card effects, which makes it another really difficult card to remove. But I find the other scary part is that you can tribute one Goki link monster, then destroy target cards up on the field up to its link rating and destroy them. And considering that it itself is a Goki link monster, you can actually tribute this card, target 4 cards, and pop them all. If that's the way that you want to play, it does provide you with that option, which is why I find this card to be the more noteworthy warrior card. So if you're going to be playing warriors in the future, maybe consider putting a Power Load Ogre into your extra deck. Then there's the Daybreakers, or sorry, the Codebreaker. There's a 0 day and 2 link monsters. They play with link, or rather co-linking, and as long as you summon these link monsters as a co-link, you get to summon back your Codebreaker monsters into other arrows. Because it's rather hard to actually summon things into their arrows because they point up and down naturally. So it's kind of an awkward situation. I'm not sure if they're that noteworthy to begin with. Then we have Super Heavy Samurais, we got a Wagon, and we also have the Swordmaster, Musashi. Musashi is just kind of a generic guy that adds a machine monster from your graveyard back to your hand. As long as you don't control a spell and trap card, you can actually normal summon or special summon the card with the same name. Aside from that, not too noteworthy. I believe it can just attack in defense position. It's only got 23, so it's not that impressive. And there's the Wagon. This is a Super Heavy Samurai Soul Search card by putting it into attack position using its own effect. That's the rundown for all the Warrior package. If you guys made it this far, consider hitting the thumbs up button, and we're on to loose support page 1, which are big dragons, sea serpents, generator bosses, high level machines. This is what we're all about on this page, and the next page will be some of the smaller stuff, but a lot of the notable cards are here, and a lot of the more hype cards, a lot of the ultra rares are kind of posted all over. Starting off with Noctovision Dragon, the only generic dragon support here. Now, if a dark dragon is special summon, you get to summon out this card from your hand. I wish it can summon out of the graveyard because that would be really awesome. Unfortunately, it's not that good. It's underrated to say the least because it is a dragon that can summon itself, and you can use it to use it as material for Romulus, creating a bit of a chain block and drawing an additional card. So Ash Blossom is kind of feeling a bit woozy on that note. Drawing 1 card, fetching another card, so you can keep your hand size rather large. Or if you're going to go into the Absoluter, you can go into Absoluter with this card. You can make a rank 7, maybe a Big Eye, steal your opponent's monster. That's always an option, and then add another card to your hand because you sent Absoluter to the graveyard. Decent options overall. That's why I'm talking about this one. It's a bit underrated. I think there's a lot of applications perhaps in the future. Then we are going into the Chamber Dragon Maid. This is a level 4 Dark Dragon Maid. I believe it adds a Dragon Maid spell or trap from the deck to the hand. A lot of people are considering using this card to go into perhaps Striker Dragon, perhaps do its only package, merge the 2 decks together, Dragon Maid Rockets perhaps. Just a self-sufficient engine, they would say. And of course we have one more Dragon Maid, which is Dragon Maid Shield, which is the House Dragon Maid's dragon form, which is actually really strong, and it offers another type of super poly access as long as you have Dragon Maid monster plus a level 5 or higher dragon monster, which is good to kill off rockets to say the least. And if you kill off rockets with this, it's pretty good, but it requires a dragon monster with a level, so preferably a Borreload Savage Dragon is one of the better options. Now, during the standby phase, you can summon out a Dragon Maid monster, but I think the coolest effect is that you get an Omni Negate the activation of a card or effect, which is a quick effect. Negate the activation, destroy the card, and if you do, return this card to the extra deck and summon out a House Dragon Maid from your extra deck. That's why this card is good. You trade nothing, you get a +1, and you put out a giant Dragon Maid onto the field that can start popping cards as well. So don't underestimate this card. If this card comes out, it's an uphill battle. Then we're going to the red stuff meaning the Red Dragon Archfiend stuff. So Crimson Resonator is a new Resonator in the set. Remember, they have Resonator Call, so they can easily add this card. And one of the best feature about this card is that you get to special summon out this card, well, for free if you don't control any other monster. Now, if this is the only other monster you control, and if the only other monster you control is exactly 1 Dark Synchro Dragon, you can special summon out 2 Resonator monsters from your hand or deck. This is probably set up that Super Red Nova Dragon or Supernova Dragon, or whatever that dragon is called, that requires many tuners. I believe it is a level 12 Synchro. Yeah, it's probably one of the crazier ones. But even as a generic card, I think it's still really good, considering that it has a Cyber Dragon-esque effect where you can just special summon out this card. Well, you don't even need your opponent to have a card, so that's why it's pretty good and it's searchable. Red Familiar is just a free Dark Dragon Single Revival. I think it's decent. It lets you modify the level of that monster. But here's the card that I really care about, Red Rain. I know some of you guys probably ignored this card because Who cares about Red Rain? Why do I want to bother with this card? Well, if you control a level 8 or higher synchro monster, banish all monsters on the field except for the monster with the highest level. And also, face up monsters that were not banished by this card effect. I guess they just are unaffected by all other card effects until the end of this turn, which is pretty good. That means they're protected from spells and traps as well as Nibiru and all that other junk. Overall, pretty cool card, and if you have a Dark Synchro, and therefore you can get the secondary effect, you can add this card back to your hand. As long as you Synchro a Dark Synchro monster, or Dark Dragon Synchro monster rather. And so Borreload Savage Dragon, I'm looking at you. Yeah, so levels do matter, I guess, in this case when it comes to Red Rain, but it has to be like a level 8 or higher Synchro monster. But yeah, it's kind of like awkward because banish all monsters except for the monster with the highest level or monsters. So if you have multiple level 8s, that's good job on your part. Or if you want to keep all your stuff alive, you have Red Eyes Darkness Metal, you can try to use Galactic Spiral Dragon to put everything to 8 on your side so you lose nothing. Yeah, that's an option. Okay, so that would be it for the dragon side. Looking into the water side, we have the Pyrath, which is a water monster that summons itself as long as a water monster is destroyed by battle or card effect. We have 2 sharks. We have Buzzsaw Shark and we have Lantern Shark. Lantern Shark, if this card is normal special summons, you can special summon another water monster in defense position except for Lantern Shark from your hand. And you're basically locked into Xyz monster if you do that. So some people are actually looking forward to playing some of these shark monsters. And Buzzsaw Shark, you can target a water monster you control, special summon a fish with the same level with a different name from the deck, and you can't activate its effect this turn. Okay, that's kind of neat. In other words, these cards kind of are self-sufficient overall. I believe Buzzsaw Shark can target itself, so it can summon out another level 4 water monster as well. Overall, it's kind of decent. Now, both of these monsters, they can be used as a level 3 or 5 monster when you're Xyz summoning for a water monster, which is why they kind of go hand in hand. Okay, and then we have another Cataclysmic monster, the Water Cataclysmic, which is the Circumpolar Chill Blonia. And this one rips a card if it's summoned. So there was that. Okay, so Ravenous Crocosaur, or Ravenous Crocodragon Arcthes. This is one of the most impressive ultra rares of the set, and I look forward to actually getting one myself. Can't wait. It's pretty good. When you synchro summon into this card, every non-tuner that you use as material, you get to draw 1 card for each one. And that's one thing that I'm looking forward to, matching this card with the Link Cross. If you can match it with Link Cross, you can definitely draw a ton of cards. If you can get a 4 material, you draw 3 cards. If you can get like even a 2 material version of this, it's still pretty good. You go into like a Formula Synchron, and then you synchro into this one during your opponent's turn. You get to draw 1 for the Formula Synchron and draw another 1 for this card. So it still helps you net gain a couple of cards here, and has a quick effect to discard 2 cards to target 1 card in the field and destroy it. So it's got a generic removal, and it's a quick effect. So if your opponent tries to go to a Mystic Mine, you can chain this card and pop the Mystic Mine, which is why it is a very powerful card. And for anyone playing Mermails, you should shove this card into your extra deck as soon as possible. And we have a Valiant Shark Lancer. I'm not too impressed with this card. It does require 2 level 5 monsters to make, or you can use those sharks mentioned previously. And target 1 monster your opponent controls, detach 1 material from a monster you control. In other words, it doesn't even have to detach its own stuff. And if you do, destroy the targeted monster. It's a quick effect if you control another Xyz water monster. So you start detaching other stuff. And it's hard. Sadly, this card is hard once per turn. And if another water Xyz monster you control is destroyed by battle card effect, you can choose 1 spell from your deck and put it to the top of the deck. You can add I guess you can add the Dark Ruler No More to shut the board off if that's your fancy, or maybe perhaps go into a Pot of Avarice and draw 2 cards. There's some options. And then there's of course the Prismatic or Starlight Rare Area, the Water Charmer Gentle. It's just like any of the other Link Charmer monsters. You have to summon out one of your opponent's monster that is a water. And is there a lot of water Link monsters right now? You leave down in the comment section below what you think you're going to steal from your opponent. And aside from that, that would actually make up the entire water lineup. I guess for the next row, we have generator monsters. We have the generator boss that negates everything. And we also have their own quick Quick Effect, Lone Fire Blossom, both of which I believe are ultra rares. I really want to play this deck, and this would probably be my pocket rogue deck once I get access to some of these cards. Honestly, it's very powerful. It actually speeds up the entire deck simply by having this, and you won't be relying on, say, the Mardell anymore. At least not as much. I actually cut it down to 1 copy because if I can get Lopter instead, I would definitely opt for Lopter. That's just my take on it. And then we have Madolches, of course, Salon giving you the access to an additional Madolche normal summon and setting additional cards. Even Promenade's not even that bad because you can target a face-up card your opponent controls. And one Madolche in your control or in your graveyard and negate the effect of the card, giving you a generic negate. And it can negate a card, so if you get locked under some sort of floodgate, you can use this to turn off said floodgate or use it to negate something that is a high priority card. Overall, not too bad, I would say. And then you could probably use the effect of Salon to perhaps set this card, or perhaps, let's be honest here, it's more likely going to get searched out and eventually set through perhaps Messenger Lotto. There's just a lot of access to spells and traps with Madolche. You guys know I'm a huge Madolche fan here. On to the level 7s and above, these bosses of bosses in this set. Starting off with Gizmek, Uka, the Festive Fox. This one, I read it wrong previously, so I get to correct myself. Now, if this card is normal or special summon, target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls. Special summon a monster from your hand or deck that it has attack and defense that are the same. That's the key thing here, but the attribute must match the opponent's monster that you targeted. So that's the limitation. I read it wrong completely the last time. I get to correct myself, so thank you very much, guys. And moving on to the next big beefy monster. This card looks so cool. It almost looks like a prize card that is coming from WCS. However, this one has a pretty gimmicky effect. This is Goldilocks. So it has to be summoned out into the middle zone, otherwise it will blow itself up. You know, not too hot, not too cold. And while it's in the middle zone, it gains 3,000 attack. In any other zone, it does not have the 3,000 attack, and it'll be at 0. Now, once per turn, you can choose one of your unused main monster zone and move this card to that zone, and then you destroy every other card in that column. So that is... I guess that's kind of neat. So you get to blow up stuff that you don't like. So if you don't like it, you can trash it, and that's the effect. Next we have Trias Siracha. This is a fairy support, or you can use it in generators because the tokens that generator Field Spell creates, they are all fairies. And well, you can, during the main phase, if this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can tribute up to 3 fairy monsters. In other words, you can tribute just 1 fairy monster to summon out this card. It's not the strongest attack position monster, but hey, it has a pretty decent effect where then you can apply the following effect in sequence. If you have 2 or more, you can destroy 1 card your opponent controls, and you can put 29 wall onto the field. Or if you use 3, you get to draw 2 cards, so it can help you replenish resources. Next, we have Thunder Dragon Lord. This one I'm not too big of a fan of because Thunder Dragons, it's no Colossus and it summons more like a Titan, but it's a Titan that is like in your main deck, and it doesn't really do anything rather destructive. Can only first be special summoned out from your hand, but during the turn a Thunder monster activates. So yeah, you have to activate a card, so it's kind of like a Colossus. And by banishing 1 level 8 or lower Thunder monster from your hand or face up on the field. And yeah, in other words, this card has to be in your hand and you have to use that. So in other words, it does cost you cards to play it. Now once per turn, you have a quick effect where you can banish 2 cards in your graveyard, including a Thunder monster, target a Thunder monster you control, and your opponent cannot target it with card effects. But you can't really chain this card, because if your opponent already targeted it and you chain this card, it's too late. It's already happened. And yeah, so in other words, you have to preemptively activate it. Not a big fan of preemptive activation, so it's not going to be likely that you're going to be able to protect your Thunder cards at all in this case. And it has an okay end phase effect where you can send a Thunder card from your deck to the graveyard. So overall, looks cool, looks like Shenron, but it is definitely not the real deal there. Then there's also Machina Metal Crunch, which is like Machina Gear Frame, like a big beefy one. This is a level 9. If you control no face-up cards, you get the normal summon out this card without tribute, but its attack becomes 1800. Okay, that's fine. I guess that's kind of cool. Now, if this card is normal special, just reveal 3 cards or 3 Earth Machines from your hand, and then your opponent randomly chooses one to add to your hand. But why don't I even get to choose my own target? Why do I lose that option too? And then there is King Beast Barbaros. I don't know why they don't just call it Beast Deity King Barbaros. whatever the case may be. I actually really like this card. You can attack all your opponent's monster once each. And so in other words, kind of has that whole UCT-esque feel right away. And you can tribute monsters whose total level equals to 8 or more to special summon this card. I believe this is an activated thing, considering it has a semicolon in there. It has a cost. And you special summon out this card from your hand. I still really like this card because this card and Gizmek naturally just can summon themselves out. And you can banish one face-up Barbaros monster you control, or in your graveyard target 2 cards your opponent controls and destroy them. And that also means that you can actually tribute this card you control as well, since it doesn't say other Barbaros monster. I actually really like this. I think there's a chance that you might see a bit more Barbaros play. Skill Drain Barbaros was a pretty fun deck back in the day when you had triple Skill Drain, but this is a pretty decent card, I have to say, because it comes with its own ritual summoning. And then there's Rainbows, which this is a gimmicky card, kind of like Goldilocks. Now this one helps one of the face-up monster you control gain attack equal to the difference between the number of extra deck cards in the extra deck times 100. It's kind of gimmicky. And the other thing is that this card gains 200 attack for each card in the extra decks. So I guess you can say this card can go up to what's like 2,000, sorry, 3,000, 3,000. So it's like 6,000 on both sides. So 6,000 attack, maybe? I don't know, seems a little gimmicky. And finally, our last card here, we have Invoked Jagoda. And I think this one is actually a really good card. Now, all it requires is Alistair plus another fusion monster. You can use it with a Super Poly. That's actually still pretty decent. You can use it to take out, say, like Winda. And if this card is special summoned, or if a monster is special summoned to your opponent's side of the field, target one monster your opponent controls and destroy it. That's pretty good. In other words, it has some level of disruption right away. And you can only use this effect once per turn. That's unfortunate, but you can also banish a fusion monster from your graveyard to boost the attack of this card. So overall, it's got a pretty decent line of effects. And that's the page 1. Let's go to page 2. And if you guys made it this far, just give yourselves a pat on the back, or, you know, if you guys want to know about all the cards now. Since this is the last little bit, a lot of the lower level monsters are the ones that people are actually seeking out. And first of all, there is the Ghost Girl. This is also the Starlight Rare. This is the Ghost Mourner Moonlit Chill. It's I would say it's a weaker version of Effect Veiler. That's all I can really say. It's kind of neat. That's all I can really talk about it, because if your opponent special summons out a monster face up, except for any of the damage up, you can discard this card and then target one of those face up monsters, negate its effect until the end of this turn. Yeah, it requires your opponent to special summon out a monster, so it's not even that generic. Impermanence does seem like it's better, but it is still a Ghost Girl hand, but this is the Wind Ghost Girl. Next we have Malice. I believe this is also a promo card that can be an ultra rare. And like her younger sister, Lilith, this one tributes 2 monsters and then it helps you replenish out a trap. Not the most exciting. I think the more exciting card here is, of course, our Anim-Adorned Argosaur. Argosaur is the best way to play dinosaurs. In fact, it actually makes Miscellaneousaurus just that much more amazing. It's because you can destroy a dinosaur monster in your hand, and you can add a reptile, sea serpent, or winged beast, but rather you can actually add an evolution pill directly from your deck to your hand by simply popping, say, a baby Ceratosaurus, summoning out a Oviraptor, fetching you another card, and then you can just cycle from there. And since this is also a level 1, you can immediately just link it off just to open up some zones or do something else with it. It's a really decent card overall. Then there's a new tuner girl in town, which is Rose Girl. Very interesting artwork. This is a TCG exclusive. It's mainly for plants and it recycles itself. It's not as good as a glow bulb for sure, but if you have, say, a plant monster on the field and this is in your grave, you get to add this card from your grave to your hand. So it's pretty neat, I suppose. And continuing on, we have Performapole support. Performapole, we have Turn Trooper. This one, as long as you put counters on it, and depending on the number of counters on it, you get different kinds of effects. If you have 1 counter on it, once per turn, your opponent declares an attack, you can negate the attack. If you have 2, you can tribute this card, banish all monsters your opponent controls until the end of the second end phase after the activation. But getting 2 counters is not that easy. At the start of your battle phase, you can place 1 counter. It has to be your battle phase, so it's really gimmicky. Let's go into something that everyone's kind of more looking forward to. Orcus Gearzu. Gearzu, the Mech Knight Orcus. This is your Foolish Burial, searchable through Mech Knight Purple, searchable through Mech Knight Blue. It's gonna give Mech Knight Orcus, a chance to be meta once again. Probably looking forward to actually seeing this card in top tier. It's probably one of the money cards of the set as well, as mentioned before. Then there is Magical Hound, which is the pup version of Mechanical Hound. But rather than just stunning your opponent out from being able to activate spells and traps, or rather spell cards, if this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can target a spell, face-up spell or trap your opponent controls and return it to the hand. And if you do special summon out this card, and you can only use this effect once per duel. I actually really like this because you can take away stuff like Mystic Mine. If they just jam it onto the field, you have an opportunity perhaps to use it to actually get rid of it, but you probably have to break your own board, or you can use this card to actually break certain floodgates. Even though it is temporary, I feel like this card has its uses, and it is a tuner. You can summon it out with Crystal Hackliferbrax if you know that you're going to be dealing with a heavier floodgate situation. I am not going to underestimate this card because it can summon itself out from the graveyard. It can summon itself from the hand. I really think that this card has a lot of potential to take out some of those face-up spells and traps. Yeah, I really think that this is a side deck worthy card, and I'm not going to underestimate. I'm probably going to keep a playset of this one. Then there's also Union Driver. Not much really to say because you can just equip this card onto a face-up monster, and then you can just immediately just get rid of it to equip another appropriate monster to it, fetching you out very quick access to, well, sadly ABCs are gone, so maybe we'll find some other Union monsters to actually really play with this one. Aside from that, next we have Unchained Twins, Siracha. How is this a twin? It's more like Unchained Triplets at this point because this is the other Unchained Twin. Where is this one coming from again? But yeah, much like the other Unchained, you can target 1 Unchained card in your graveyard and set it to your field, then destroy 1 card you control. And if this card is on the field, it's destroyed by card effect except for its own effect or by battle. Okay, and you can special summon an Unchained monster from your hand or deck, which is actually pretty neat because most of the Unchained cards based off of destruction, they get to summon out more and more stuff. And that's the entire monster lineup. Onto the spells, we have Necroquip Prism. I'm not a huge fan of this card. Target 1 monster, level 4 lower monster in your graveyard. Special summon 1 monster from your hand with a level equal or lower than that target. I thought I could actually abuse this card by equipping, say, Dragon Buster Sword, but that doesn't seem like it's going to be the case. And then equip it to that. But for the rest of the turn, you kind of activate cards or the effects with the same name as the one that's equipped. And yeah, well, equipped to that card, it gains attack equal to half of that monster's attack. But I'm like, oh, that's not good enough. This is really gimmicky. It seems like it's mainly for unions. And then there's also Witchcrafter Demonstration, which can seal the deal and lock your opponent out from interacting with your Witchcrafter monsters and special summon 1 from your hand. So that's kind of cool. Heavy Forward is a card that I think most players playing Infinitrax are looking forward to because this is your search card, much like a Tenki, and it gives you also battle position changes. Then we have Link Burst, which is pop a Link monster, pop a card your opponent controls, and then draw a card. Evil Eye Manifestation, just a token summoning for Fiend tokens, and if you control Eye of Selene, you get to summon out 2 tokens. And you're locked into special summoning out Fiend monsters for the rest of the turn. Your opponent cannot target your Evil Eye spells and traps with card effects. It's decent, I guess, I suppose. And then there is Stairs of Mail. I think this is like some sort of thing where the spiral is actually endless and you keep on spiraling. I think that's the mathematical equivalent. And it's just like a Book of Moon, face up or face down. That's it. You have to discard a Tindangle card. It doesn't have anything else other than being a Tindangle support. Then there's Fusion Deployment. This one has a bit of hype behind it because you can reveal a fusion monster in your extra deck and special summon a fusion material whose name specifically listed on there. I think this one is useful for even Gladiator Beast, I suppose. Now you are locked into only special summoning out fusion monsters out of the extra deck, so that is going to be a limitation. But if you're playing GB, I think that's actually okay, not that bad. But if you're going to be playing stuff that relies on links, if you use this with like Shaddolls, you can't use cross sheep, and seeing that it doesn't say for the rest of the turn, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck the turn you activated this card. In other words, it's got a heavier limitation. Just keep that in mind. It's not like, it seems like there's a lot of things that are like the rest of the turn, but keep in mind this old wording still exists where it's a much heavier restriction. Then there's also Void Apocalypse. What is this card? I didn't even know that this card even existed. Now, you can discard one card, send one fiend monster from your deck to the graveyard. You can send this card, face-up card to the graveyard, then send Inferno monsters with different names from your hand or deck to the graveyard up to the number of monster your opponent controls that were special summoned from the extra deck. So, okay, it's definitely not as good as Void Imagination because that one's a blowout card. This one is sets up one, I guess it's a Foolish Burial. Bit iffy to me. I'd rather play that Salamangreat card that lets me draw a bunch of cards and just play with the Infernos that will draw instead. Then this is the Flourishing, I forgot what was the name, but I guess the old name is Beaming Prosperity. This is like, it's featuring Sylvan cards. It's much like a Pot of Duality where you get to excavate cards. However, the only way you even get to add cards to your hand is you have to reveal a spell, trap, and a monster. And I find that condition to be really difficult because most deck building ratios are no longer based off of having equal amounts of spell, traps, and monsters. And most people, I don't know which deck would actually benefit off of using this card. Otherwise, you need to have a heavy loaded excavation because for every additional copy of this card that's in the graveyard, you get to excavate more. So you can technically play this as like almost like a 5-card Pot of Duality. And it doesn't really have any other restriction. It's kind of weird. I don't know. This one feels a little gimmicky to me. Personally, because you need to play monster spells and traps, and for any deck that's trying to turbo out certain cards, they are trying to minimize the amount of different cards that they play, in particularly traps. So you guys let me know what you would use this card for. And for the Megaliths, you guys get a quick play ritual summon. That's it. That's the Megalith Unformed. As for traps, this one is an Xyz Revival Splash. It's kind of like a rank up magic because it does basically rank up your monster when you target one rank 4 or lower Xyz monster in your graveyard, special summon it, and then it becomes water, and then you can banish this card, target a water Xyz monster you control, and then you just up the rank. It's considered as an Xyz summon, and you transfer the material. So this is a quicker version of a rank up, or slower if you consider it as a trap. And this is Witchcrafter Patroness. This is the Witchcraft. I think it helps you cycle out some of your Witchcrafter spells. There's Titanocider. This is like Lost Wind, but you change the attack to 0 and it has to be a monster special summon out of the extra deck. But this card does not banish itself, so you got that benefit of constantly cycling out this card, but it is once per turn on that set. Pinpoint Dash, this is that gimmick card where each player reveals a face down extra deck card, and if they're the same type, you get to summon out yours, and yeah, your opponent will lose life points equal to the current attack if it's the same type and attribute as well. So this card is kind of gimmicky. You're really taking a huge gamble here. What if someone reveals an Ultimate Falcon and you completely miss the mark and they get to summon out a free Ultimate Falcon? I think that's actually going to be quite silly. Maybe you can actually use it. Maybe your opponent's going to reveal an Xyz monster. But if you know the matchup and you know you can actually benefit off of showing that because you know that your opponent does not have anything else really to show, it really makes it into like a game of luck and a game of chance. And finally, there is Gravedigger Trap Hole, which is a more powerful version of Call by the Grave because anything that activates in the hand, graveyard, or banished, negate the effect and you burn your opponent. You can use this to kind of eat. Well, if you have this preset, maybe you can eat a Nibiru later on, but aside from that, it's just a decent card to kind of negate stuff that's getting banished, negate stuff that's in the grave, negate stuff that's just basically being moved out of the current position to actually trigger. It's decent, and I think one of the key decks that will use it to stop Nibiru would be Traptrix, because you can go into a Rafflesia and it will always be a live condition, and you can always detach, and then you can throw this out, negate the Nibiru, and then your opponent takes 2,000. For Traptrix, for sure, I think they definitely will play this card. Okay, down to our final two monsters. We have Tautou Dragon and Traptrix Alumnus. Tautou Dragon, I thought it was going to be a Yang Zing support card, but it's not. Apparently, it's just an extra deck generic monster. Depending on the material you use to summon out this monster, if you use a fusion, your opponent cannot activate the monster effect during the battle phase, but I'd rather have my opponents not activate monster effects during the main phase because I don't want to get Nibiru'd. And the second thing is, if you synchro, use a synchro material, your opponent cannot activate spells and traps during your main phase. So I guess they can't use their back row, making it a bit safer for me. It does simplify the game state, but what's the real point here? If you actually have to commit materials to make this card, probably the back row is not anything anyway, so I'm not really that impressed with the Tautou Dragon altogether. And then there's Traptrix Alumnus, which is, if I can go into this, I'd rather go into Rafflesia if I'm going to be playing Gravedigger Trap Hole. Unaffected by trap cards while it has materials, and you can only use each of the following effects once per turn. You can detach 2 materials for summon out an insect or plant monster from your graveyard, so it has a bit of a graveyard special summon. I guess like most of those grave summoners, like a monster reborn carrying effect. Now if a monster you control leaves the field because of your card effect, oh, okay, I get to send him to the graveyard, and is now in the graveyard or banished, you can detach 1 material from this card and to target one of those monsters and special summon back to your field. You are just grabbing them back. I kind of like this, since it is by my effect, after all. It's kind of neat. It is also one of the Starlight Rares of the set. It's neat, but I think Rafflesia with a Gravedigger Trap Hole holds a little bit more value for me, dodging another option to dodge Nibiru. This card. Anyways, we're done. We finally made it to the end. So which cards are you guys looking forward to? Which card that you didn't really know perhaps you'll consider now? And that's all I got for this video, guys. And I think I'm gonna go into some deck profiles coming up, and I'll see if I can do another live duel with you guys very soon. Perhaps take another risk with my fiance. Maybe I don't have to do the dishes anymore. Maybe we'll go for some, maybe I'll make her make me a dessert or something. Who knows? We'll see. Well, she'll have to learn a new deck first. And that's all I got for this video, guys. If you guys enjoyed this video, enjoyed this podcast, maybe killed an hour of your day that you're really trying to burn away, hit that thumbs up button. If you guys want to see more stuff from MST.TV, hit the subscribe button. If you guys want to, especially if you guys want to keep seeing these full set analysis just to burn the time for you guys, really would appreciate it. If you guys want to help support this video, you can also check out the TCG player link or become a Patreon to MST.TV. Just check out the link down in the description. And that's all I got for this one, guys. Hopefully we can talk about some rulings coming up. There hasn't really been much rulings going on because I haven't really seen some of the latest online events based off of some misplays that may have occurred. But well, if there's new cards coming out, we'll talk about the rulings if they get complicated. So hit subscribe for that as well. And that is all I got. So I'll see you guys in the next one.